you know, anytime you can find yourself in a situation, and I've just been here, so I didn't know a lot about your country. It's beautiful from what I've read, from what I've seen, and looking at this audience reminds me of the same type of thing. You are at ground zero. Everybody here that is coming together, different sizes, different ages, different colors, they're here to get with you side by side. They're not here to change the way you think. They're not here to endorse or force anything on you. But they're here to act as the same type of barrier that those animals had that day. And you know, I look about, like Katie was talking about the Rolado, you look at all the wonderful things, I'm saying, wow, all these great things we have here in this city, in this state, and they're all taken for granted out of ignorance. People don't want to get together no matter what color they are because they're afraid that this one is going to tell this one what to do and this one is not going to get what they need to get because that one didn't tell them everything they knew, but just enough to get some money from it. You know, you've got kids who are now not being taught what it is they have in their own backyard, never going to any of the local parks, never knowing the little bit of information I gave you about things, and they pass right by it every day going to school. This, to me, is a world that has forgotten that you only have one time to get this right. No matter what color we are, we're one team fighting for one thing, and it's survival. This is Team Earth. You know, it's not Team Yellow, it's not Team Brown, it's not Team Black, it's Team Earth. And whenever we do anything to just focus on one agenda, everybody's going to suffer anyway, because the way we are, we're like a puzzle. We're all intertwined. So if we let you go down, believe me, we'll be next. This is what we do at home. We just came off a protest here a few weeks ago, and I mean, it's like, you know, no one is in a vacuum. No one is in the bubble. So I want to leave you with this. After listening to the Rolado we had in the Indiana Dunes, and listening to Katie and Ron and everybody, and I was standing there still thinking in the back of my mind about the way those animals had taught me such a lesson. And I realized that you cannot save the planet and not save the people. You cannot protect our resources and not protect and invest in the education of the people to whom the land belongs. You cannot bestow poverty and ignorance of any kind on any section or class of people and not expect nature to suffer. You must bring the concerns of the people and connect them through education with the spirit and nature. Ignorance is our biggest barrier. Ignorance is the weapon of mass destruction. And until we can all decide that it's time for us to fight, whether it's you now, whether it's in Australia, South Africa, we will continue to keep going to meetings and having these things, and we will still look worse than the animals did. And me, myself, and I decided that day that I wanted to do something about it. So that's one of the reasons that I'm here, and I always thank Katie and everybody for inviting me. So, thank you.
I told you she was amazing. For the final speaker for our session on learning about other relatos, before we turn to learning about Jeju Village, I would like to introduce and welcome Carla Montero Matos, the coordinator of Rio de Janeiro State Agenda 21 program.
There we go. Good morning, everybody. It's a great honor to be here. Just arrived yesterday, and I'm from Brazil. And we hosted, I hosted our Rio de Janeiro State Relato last year, a little before the preparations for Rio Plus 20 started. So it was a very good moment for us. And I imagine that we accomplished some very important points that a relato must take into account, which is hear from the people what the real reality, if this means is, you know. It's like everyone said here, you know, from papers we can read lots of stuff about the history, about the water issues, about the climate change of that specific region, but hearing from the people that lives in the in the municipality, in the place, in the community, it's what really matters. This is how we understand we can really make a difference. So one of the things we heard from community leaders there is that human dignity is a central ecological value, right? So Rio de Janeiro State is, of course, in Brazil. It's the second smallest state of Brazil, but it's 43,780 square kilometers big, right? It has a population of 16 million people and 92 municipalities, right? Our state, my state, it's been hugely impacted by mining companies, by oil companies, and by a great amount of business that's coming to the state due to discovery of oil wells and also due to Rio being in fashion now. Now that violence is being, diminished a little bit. So our ecosystem is very fragile. It's Mata Atlântica, Atlantic forest, right? And there is like just 7% of Atlantic forest left in Brazil, in the whole country, which is the coastal forest, only 7% left. So it's a very fragile ecosystem. We have a big challenge there, right? So the beginning of our relato was a meeting with authorities from the state government, right? The state environmental government, right? So we met directors of the green economy sector, waste management, water issues, and climate change. So we had an overview of this of the state concerning this aspect, and then we went to visit one of the. At that time, in October 2012, we were still very, let's say, very impacted by this major flood that hit the state in the beginning of last year, right? About 1,000 people died out of this, you know, huge storm and consequently floods in specifically in 3 cities, right? So we went to see this. It's like a war zone, right? But this actually it's like landslide, right? And it cut the buildings in half. So, and one of the things, a particular thing about this place is that there's no good sewage system and there's no urban water for the population. So we have no water, but we have too much water. It's like, you know, when it rains, it causes things like this, you know, disastrous thing, right? Our water is one of the things we heard from them, is that our water is our richness, yet our water is what hurts us, right? So whenever there is that tragedy, that tragedy is consequence of great amount of water, which is consequence of climate change for sure. But in the opinion poll, most of the people said that this is what God wants for us, you know. So I mean, they were, the majority of the communities are not aware of climate change, you know, of the consequences of this, right? Yeah, so this community was mostly hit, you know. They told us their story. And one very important aspect, ethical aspect about this specific community we visited is that they felt, they were feeling, they used to love that community, but they were being moved away in order to because their houses, see the ones marked with the red number in red, it means that they would be demolished, right? And I mean, one of the things, the ethical things that we heard from them is that they said poor people are not free to make choice. They want to stay. They wanted to stay there and change that, but the government wanted them to move, right? So this was very deep for us because they loved that community, and it had recently happened also the hurricane in Japan. And they also said, well, Japanese have hurricanes, we have floods, we have to survive with that, we can live with that. Another thing about, this was also a picture in the same place. As we were preparing, it was a moment of preparations for Rio Plus 20. We also had a meeting with Aspasia. She is a member of the she was a member of the National Committee Preparation Committee for Rio Plus 20, right? And one of the major, I mean, I'll just say this thing that in our discussion we realized that the 3 pillars of sustainability could not be equally considered, environment is the foundation. So this is one thing that came out of that. And then we moved to another community, Grenache. Grenache is a landfill, right? It's the largest landfill in Latin America. So, we prepared ourselves watching this movie, and about 1,200 families depended on the waste of that landfill, right? So we visited there. Now the landfill is closed, right? And Petrobras, the major, one of the major international, it's national and but also international oil company in Brazil, has now the concession of using that gas. So the families are out of the game. Petrobras is having the gas, and there's an ethical issue here. The families were dependent on that wasteland, on that landfill, right? So where will the benefits be disbursed, and in what percentage? Some benefits will go for the people or not, or only for corporations, right? So now this landfill is not active anymore, and there was a very huge ethical issue there, right? And just like 1 minute to finish, next we moved to this other small town called Mesquita, right? It's a poor municipality, very poor municipality, but the mayor himself, he was just a fan of the Earth Charter, right? He incorporated the Earth Charter in the municipality planning, right? And the women that worked for the, okay, this is the mayor, right? The women that worked for this trash collection cooperatives, right? So here they are all together, right? Getting organized during their jobs. So they would go like, okay, I don't have a job, I have nothing, but will I work with waste? So they were very resistant to working with waste, but at the same time they had no money, nothing, they didn't have a life. So we could hear from them that working with waste made them rescue life and citizenship, So this is one thing that we could see from them, is that they were they rescued my life, they rescued my citizenship, right? So this is a woman, she's really proud of her nails, right? She was, she told us that her name was dirty because she couldn't pay her bills. Her name was dirty in the market. She couldn't pay her bills before having this job, right? I now can make my home better, right? So I just end up with the first sentence, right? That human dignity is a central ecological value. Thank you.
Okay, now it's our turn to learn from you, Gangjang Village. And you might have seen in one of the last slides, one of the women, one of the catadores said, success for us is important to everyone. And there's a similar phrase in Gangjang, world peace begins at Gangjang Village. And I welcome the Gangjang panelists to the table now as we begin. I would like to warmly welcome the Honorable Mayor Kang Dong-kyun, the voice of the village.
천혜의 환경을 가지고 제주도에 여러분 오신 것을 환영합니다.
We so welcome you to come to the Jeju Island, which is heaven blessed.
대한민국은 녹색 성장을 추구하고 있습니다.
The South Korean pursues the green growth.
그리고 제주도는 유네스코 자연과학 분야 3관왕을 토대로 한 그리고 이번 WCC 총회를 계기로 세계 자연환경 수도로 발돋움하려고 하고 있습니다.
The Jeju Island, the UNESCO Triple Crown, is now promoting to be the World Environmental Capital upon this WCC.
그런 의미에서 이번에 벌어지고 있는 WCC 총회는 아주 의미 있는 일이라고 생각합니다.
In that sense, this World Conservation Congress is very meaningful.
그러나 지금 제주도에는 아주 슬픈 일이 벌어지고 있죠.
However, can you hear me?
Yes.
However, in this Jeju Island, very sad thing is happening right now.
바로 이 WCC 총회장 컨벤션 센터에서 7km밖에 떨어지지 않은 곳에는 국가안보를 빙자로 한 자연환경 파괴 내지는 국가 폭력에 의한 인권 유린이 자행되고 있습니다.
Only 7 kilometers away from this convention center, there is a happening of human rights violation and environmental destruction in the Gangjang Village.
그거에 한가해 지금까지 만 5년 4개월 동안 싸우고 있는 강정마을 회장을 맡고 있는 강동규입니다.
I am Kang Dong-kyun, mayor of the Gangjang Village, who have fought for more than 5 years and 4 months against such naval-based project.
그러면 우리 강정마을에 대해서 잠깐 소개하고자 합니다.
And I want to briefly introduce about our Gangjang Village to you.
강정마을은 이제 수천 년 동안 이 환경과 더불어 지역 공동체가 돈독하게 살아온 마을입니다.
For thousands of years, the Gangjang Village community has been very strong, being very well with the nature itself.
그리고 유네스코 자원과학 분야 3관왕에 많이 광제되고 있는 마을입니다.
The village itself is very much related to the UNESCO Triple Crown.
특히 제주도는 담수가 적은 섬입니다.
The Jeju Island is characteristic of little fresh water.
그러나 그 강정마을은 그 몇 안 되는 그 물이 아주 많은 마을이고 무리마을이라고 강정 이름이 무리마을이라고 이름 지어져 있고 서귀포 시민이 식수의 70%를 차지하는 곳입니다.
The Gangjong village is very unique in the sense it has almost one of the most abundant water of the Jeju Island areas. The water of the Gangjong village is about 70% of drinking water of the whole Seogwipo citizens in the Jeju Island.
그래서 저는 어느 곳보다도 강정마을 출신이라는 것을 자부하고 있고 그것을 자랑스럽게 생각하고 있습니다.
I am very proud of that I come from the Gangjong village.